Carl and Liam here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And we're here. It's the final 2 episodes of season 2 of Goosebumps, the TV series from the 90s. It's a 2-parter, but it is a big one, and one that needed to be 2 parts. It is Night of the Living Dummy 3. The second entry in the Night of the Living Dummy TV episodes, because we never did Night of the Living Dummy. That didn't exist. We jumped straight to Night of the Living Dummy 2 in season 1, and then went Night of the Living Dummy 3. I'll never understand why they did that.
No, I wonder what the story behind that is. But for me, this is an extremely memorable episode. I think we maybe even had this on a VHS back in the day. I just recall watching it a lot on TV, and it wasn't like on a TV channel or anything. So probably had it on VHS, I believe.
I think you're correct in that front, because a few episodes ago I said to you that in one of these videos that watching this episode, the amount of nostalgic flashbacks I had for certain scenes and sequences that happened stunned me. I don't remember a lot of these episodes, but this one was like, it was like flying from my head. It was weird. It was like, oh my God, I remember that scene. That happening, this happening. The, small things like Slappy running across a floor towards the attic stairwell. I was like, oh my God, I really remember that, and things like that. It's weird. So it definitely stood out.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is, of course, the 24th and 25th episodes of season 2. The episodes are based on the 40th Goosebumps book of the same title. And these episodes aired on July 20th, 1997 in a 1-hour special. So they didn't split them up. They did it as a whole fucking thing, which was the right way to do it, I think.
That would explain why we had maybe a tape of it, because it was clearly more of like a feature-length episode, and I guess they probably were more likely to put these longer episodes out on VHS because they could sell them as almost like movies themselves.
Yeah, that would make complete sense, actually. Yeah. Directed by Timothy Bond, he's returned to sit in the directing chair, but written by Neil Shusterman. And I don't know that name.
That doesn't ring any bells from the names you've said so far.
Some interesting little touches here. Rocky's voice actor, so the puppet Rocky, is voiced by Eugene Lipinski, who played Mr. Mortman in The Girl Who Cried Monster.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep, would never have known it because of the sort of voice he does, but that was a character we really liked, the main villain of The Girl Who Cried Monster, which is one of the strongest episodes of season 1. So
definitely one of the strongest performances, I think, to date in the entirety of Goosebumps, his performance. So
absolutely. But I also got to pull one out for the last time we're going to see something. This is the final special to include R.L. Stine as the host for the wraparounds.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Isn't back for any other ones? Well, I have no idea.
Apparently not. Yeah, this is listed as the final one where he will appear at the beginning and at the end for these hour-long special wraparounds. I was a bit like, oh, that's a real shame.
Yeah, so early on as well. And yeah, I like it because you always know that if he appears, you're going to get something that's pretty good.
Something important. Always felt important. But on the flip side of that, it did make me feel like, okay, does that mean in season 3 and season 4, we're trying some new things out? All right, that could be worth watching.
Yeah, because we've been a little bit critical of some of the episodes I think we've done recently. So maybe they threw out the book and decided to try something new and different, and maybe R.L. Stine went out with the book, man.
Yeah. Blair Slater, Daniel O'Dell's character, played Cooper Holmes in season 3's The Barking Ghost. So we have some connection there in between the actors. But obviously, more famously, this episode features Cousin Zane, who is played by young Hayden Christensen, better known, I mean, I shouldn't need to tell you this, but better known as Anakin Skywalker from the Star Wars franchise, as the teenage/adult Anakin Skywalker from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, well, I think it's easily, obviously, probably the most notable actor in all of Goosebumps. I mean, I think Ryan Gosling was in a previous episode, so that's notable as well. Obviously an Oscar winner, so probably more notable. But Hayden Christensen. If you'd gone back when we were younger and told us that one day that guy was going to play Darth Vader, you never would have believed it, man.
Never. Incredible, isn't it? Amazing.
And, I think it's sorry, I was going to say also, I think it's quite funny that considering he is the actor in the episode based on who's in it, I looked up the casting and many of the other actors if they went on to do much, which they didn't really. And that's quite funny because he's probably the worst actor in this episode. So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention his acting until I hit certain points, but yeah, there were several times I just went, no, not the Star Wars acting. No, not that.
Well, it convinced George Lucas, clearly.
Slappy is bigger in this television episode, so notably bigger, and a continuation later on in the show than he was in the Night of the Living Dummy 2. However, there's a good reason for this. In this installment, Slappy needed an actor to portray him, to properly animate him, because in the previous episode, Night of the Living Dummy 2, he was a puppet with limited motion. So this time they wanted him to move around a lot more, so they needed an actor. Then obviously you have the problem, consistency. You use a small puppet or do you use the actor? So what they did was we'll change the puppet, make it the same size as the actor for consistency. So that's why Slappy's so much bigger in this.
Yeah, I did notice that. That definitely adds to his creep factor.
Yeah.
His maneuverability.
Well, of course, if you pay even cursory attention, you'll be able to see when Slappy is a dummy or when it's an actor in costume. Particularly as the costume's face stretches like rubber when the mouth moves and it can't move its eyes or eyebrows. The dummies also have human hands when the actors wear costumes.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I've always noticed the whole hand difference thing, and until you said it there, like now, yeah, I get that, yeah.
But here's the thing. These are issues I just kind of okay with, because I'm like, well, there's no real way around it. You know, it was late 90s. It's a cheap show. You're not going to be able to get amazing prosthetics and costumes and stuff. I kind of feel like it adds to the cheesy feel of what this is, which is a Night of the Living Dummy.
Yeah, and I think it works, so it's okay.
Yeah, we'll get into it because we've got a lot to get through here. So it's a dark night as we focus on the house. The wind picks up. Mary Poppins is coming. We did a whole wind chime, whatever, cockatoo on the thing turning around. I was like, oh, that signs Mary Poppins is arriving.
Well, now that would be interesting.
That would change this episode completely. Mary crossover. We've done Freddy versus Jason. We've done Alien versus Predator. Mary Poppins versus Slappy.
Maybe that's how Slappy enters, like Mary Poppins, you know.
We see a girl asleep in her bed, woken by the sound of someone bringing a heavy suitcase upstairs. This person is dressed all in black, knocks something over, prompting her to get out of bed and follow them up to the attic. The girl is Trina, played by Erica Fairfield. Up in the attic, the figure is gone, but an open window gets Trina's attention. It's very creaky up there, and she calls out. She removes some furniture covers and unveils a chair full of puppets. And she isn't freaked out at all by them. So immediately I was like, okay, this puppets in this house are normal. The fact that you're not like, oh, means that she's used to seeing them and she expected them to be there. So I thought that's always a really good touch to establish the house and the environment they live in, where it's like, okay, puppets are normal. So that means when Slappy arrives, it isn't going to be seen out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it's smart to establish that.
Yep. A larger one gets her attention under a different cover, and when she pulls that off, a huge mafia-style puppet starts to talk to her. He says it's past her bedtime and she shouldn't be up here. She accuses her brother Dan of being behind her, but he arrives behind her saying you heard some noise. Dan, by the way, is played by Blair Slater, the character previously. The puppet starts to laugh as we fade to black. So there's our classic Goosebumps intro. It's Dan. Turns out it's not Dan. And then it's like, oh no, it's real.
Hello, Trina. You shouldn't be here. It's past your bedtime.
Come off it, Daniel. I know it's you. You can't disguise your voice from me.
Trina? I heard some bumping in the hallway. Was that you?
You convinced, I presume?
Totally convinced. At least it is the fade to black, which I prefer to the fade to white. You know, that was not good. That upset me big time.
This is one of the few times where when we come back in, they abandon the attempt to scare immediately. It's happened a couple of times where they just don't even bother carrying it on, and immediately the next scene that comes is the kids revealing it not to be real or whatever. Normally it takes a few seconds, but instantly here we come back in and the kids are standing there rolling their eyes. I was like, wow, you didn't even really want to try. You're just like, nope, forget that. And they pull the puppet up to reveal a hand that belongs to their father, Mr. Odell, played by Martin Doyle. Dare I say, the best thing in this episode?
Yeah, it's a good shout.
He's a ventriloquist, and a good one at that.
Yeah. Definitely.
He then shows them the latest puppet he has. It's Slappy with a smashed face. Well, and now we come to, it's in the trivia, but it's also considered an error. Because if you remember at the end of Night of the Living W2, it wasn't, so basically the smash is around his eye. So effectively it removes his whole eye. But if you remember at the end of Night of the Living W2, when he was smashed, it wasn't that. In fact, it was his entire face. His entire head was almost broken into pieces.
That's true.
Yeah. Mr. Odell does some puppetry with Slappy before Mrs. Odell, played by, and apparently I forgot to put who plays her. I wrote played by and then left it blank. So played by someone. Yep. Sorry, Mrs. Odell.
I'd be devastated. She's going to leave us a very angry, negative comment now.
She arrives and wonders what everyone is making. What the hell are you all doing in the attic late at night, basically? Fair point. Mr. Odell sets about fixing Slappy's face, and the adults reveal to the kids that their cousin Zane is coming to stay, and they are not happy about this. As we then devolve into, oh, don't do this to me episode. The parents ask the kids not to play pranks on him. And you're like, oh.
And he's going to be the scaredy cat type, isn't he, of course?
Now, it will play out that way, but I will give the episode a credit for doing something I had forgotten happens and still took me by surprise when it does. We'll get to it. It's very cool. But we do something different here, as she says, don't prank him like last time. And we actually flash back to see what prank they did. And it is an extreme one. It is a bit like, that's not a prank. That's dangerous. As we see them, they literally somehow carried him out of the house in his bed. So carried the bed and him out of the house to a field and then left him there where in the morning he got woken up by a cow and he freaked out. I'm like, holy shit, that's not, what? How do you manage that?
Got to assume that they also drugged him.
Yeah, I mean, the cold alone, forget the noise or the environment. The environment, you feel so cold. I've slept in a fucking shitty tent at festivals in bad sleeping bags, and good God, will you get cold?
Yeah.
But it's not even that. All I keep thinking about is the logic of, have you ever tried carrying a bed that's got a mattress on it, covers, and a person on it?
Can't say I have, but I can't imagine it'd be very easy, especially if I was like quite young as well.
It would be impossible. Trying to pick up a single bed that's just got its frame in it, and you will struggle to carry it and for any length of time. It's so dumb, but I love it because it's so fucking dumb. You know?
I suppose it's a way of putting it.
Back in modern times, Mr. Odell asks him to promise not to play pranks on Zane before Trina finds a card in his pocket. She reads the words, the magic words, and Slappy's repaired eye flies off. Love that. That there is a really subtle touch for us to know the effect of the words, but also that's a very old school horror thing where just a small thing happens to indicate something has changed.
What's this?
Oh, I guess Slappy comes with his own business card.
What's it say?
Karu Marie Odana Loma Malonu Carano.
Oh, the glue didn't hold.
Back to bed, guys. Come on, let's get a move on. Zane's gonna be here first thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
But you can see where this episode is going here. Zane's going to have pranks played on him by Slappy, and the other two will get the blame. Like, literally, I was like, oh, that's what's going to happen. Yep. Boom. Not quite. Also, now this is more of an issue, not with the writing of the episode, but more with an issue with just the world that they created for the Night of the Living Dubbing series. Slappy's previous owners who obviously gave him away or threw him away and then he was found or whatever. When you went, we're chucking this in the bin after his head was smashed and whatever, did you not think, oh, you know what we'll do? That card with the magic words, we'll burn that so nobody can ever revive him again. But instead, he went, no,
smart.
Put it in his pocket for the next person.
Yeah, unless they could somehow establish that the cards magically repair themselves or reappear, but they didn't do that. So you just got to assume that it's like the ring tape, you have to like pass it on to someone. The curse, that's it.
I like to think, going back Night of the Living Dummy 2, I like to think that the family in that got weird again and got distracted after destroying Slappy and doing one of their family fun nights and singing Kumbaya to each other and videotaping each other, so I forgot completely.
I remember those times. Good times, man.
Everyone goes to bed as Zane is going to be there in the morning. Mr. Odell glues Slappy's eye back on and leaves the dummy. And we get a sort of final parting shot as we see green magic, magic repairing the eye in a sort of green line. I actually thought the effect looked really good.
It does look good, but it's a good thing it did because I thought he didn't do the best job of gluing it on anyway. Like it wouldn't have looked very good. So luckily, magic saved the day.
Indeed, we'll get to that as well. It's morning and Trina is pranked by Slappy sitting at a kitchen table. Yep, we're off and rolling, people. Pranks galore. Everyone laughs and Trina notices that Slappy's face is as good as new. Mr. Odell acknowledges the good work he did. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, totally,
What?
Man.
Like, I don't give a shit if you want to take credit for it, but you as a grown man would know that's not being glued on. That's fixed. Like, you would know. You look at the fucking thing.
Yeah, if you'd like look at the edges and be like, you'd probably still see some of the glue a little bit. I've glued plenty of things, man. There's no way it would be that like seamless.
Absolutely. He then plays a prank involving cutting his own thumb off. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to get annoying.
Don't lie, man. It got you, didn't it? It got you.
Oh, I was totally
like,
convinced.
He cut the man's thumb off.
I actually, I don't even know if I know how to do the whole thumb line thing.
I'm kind of jealous. I wish I could do it as well as he did.
However, I also know in here, hey, dad, mum as well, who laughs at this joke, prank. If you don't want your kids to play pranks, maybe don't play pranks yourself. You're kind of setting a bad example.
Maybe I think that's the whole thing the episode's trying to show, because like how he was in the attic with the kids and the dummies and stuff. The mother's a bit like disapproving. Clearly he's the sort of bad influence there, I think. Yeah. Yeah,
he does have a bit of a big kid tendency about him.
Yeah. I think there's even a point later on where he sort of thinks himself that Zane is overreacting to some of the stuff that they do. So
true. Zane arrives and Hayden Christensen is here. And he isn't happy about being left with this family and even says some of the lines. Oh, really good here. He complains to his dad, says the same lines that Trina and Dan said earlier on, bit for bit, about not wanting to be around him. Don't like me. Oh, it's really well done. I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
We then get, again, a really good bit of acting as the kids kind of come up to each other and are awkward around each other. And I was like, that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, I would say that I found it very believable, like they were the relations that they're supposed to be. Quite convincing. Agreed.
He reveals that he is a photographer now and the kids walk away. Inside, he starts to take pictures of them, even doing the whole modeling shtick with Trina. And what goodwill the episode built up a minute ago with the awkward acting between the group of them, it now drops completely in one of the most cringe-inducing scenes as he's all like, work it. And I'm just like, oh, this is awful.
Ruffle your hair a bit. Oh, beautiful. Cross your arms and maybe lean a bit to that side. Oh, beautiful. You're happening. You're here. Oh, great stuff.
Hey, wait. Get one of me by myself.
All right, okay. Oh, wait. I think I got a sneeze.
Here, get this one.
The fun ends, though, when she poses with Slappy and Zane freaks out. He drops a book that Dan picks up and sees it's called Conquering Your Fears. He laughs at him. Trina takes it back from Dan, gives it back and gives Dan a reminder of what they promised with her eye. Some good eye acting here. She just looks at him as if to say, like, remember, we said we wouldn't give him shit. Parents come back in as Zane declares he hates dummies. Mr. Odell then does a bit with Slappy as Zane looks visibly uncomfortable. So again, at this point, you're just kind of thinking, oh, pranks, scaredy cat, shit, we've done this over and over again.
I think it does work a little bit because in the other Night of the Living Dummy episode, I think I mentioned how I didn't really get the whole mummy thing being scary. I don't really get it too much.
Yep.
So they added a character that is really fearful of them, so it kind of works a bit better.
Here's the thing: this is in hindsight. I'm way more forgiving of it once now I know what happens. That's the kind of thing. Now I know the full picture. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But when you're kind of watching it as I was and not remembering it until I got to the point where I remembered the shit then, I'm just like, oh God, I can't believe we're doing this. And I'm thinking, it's a double episode. Oh no, it's going to go forever.
Yeah.
That night, Zane is asleep when his door creaks open and a scary shadow is seen. He rolls over and comes face to face with the mafia dummy in a hockey mask. It's a nice little reference to Jason, Friday the 13th, I guess.
I guess that's a thing they're doing. I don't know.
Well, why else the hockey mask, right? Literally in horror, any horror, a hockey mask will be associated one character, one thing.
That's it. That's what they were going for. I'm sticking with it.
He freaks out and starts attacking it with his feather pillow as everyone except Dan comes in to see what is going on. So if you remember the previous episode, which was it? Was it Don't Wake Mummy? I praised and said that there was a pillow scene that I really liked and thought was violent. And then I referenced that it would come up again. Holy shit. They gave Hayden Christensen a couple of pillows of feathers and went, go nuts, because that room is covered in feathers by the end.
Help me, no, no! Help me, no! Help me, please! Zane! Help me now, quick, help me! Help!
That is a hell of a lot of feathers, it's true.
It is. Mr. Adele calls the mafia puppet Rocky. So this is where we get Rocky's actual name and accuses Trina. She denies it and points out that the mask belongs to Dan. He then comes in having been woken up seemingly and gets the blame, but also denies it. Obviously, they're both going to deny it, you know. But I do woken up because, you know, if you're going to play a prank, isn't that how you'd hide your? Oh, I was asleep. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Although I don't know if this is a good line or a bad line, but rather than say wise ass, don't be a wise ass, which is obviously something they can't say in a kid's show, it's replaced for don't be a wise acre, A-C-R-E. And I was kind of like, is that good or bad? I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Yeah, not sure about that one.
The two kids blame each other until the parents have had enough and order them to clean up the mess while Zane gets ice cream. I did like the fact that Dan's like, oh yeah, ice cream. And it's like, no, not for you, you little prick. In the hallway, we then see Slappy's eyes move to watch Zane and Mrs. Odell. Great shot here, distant shot. So it's one of those lovely shots where we're seeing Zane and Mrs. Odell in the distance into the hallway and Slappy's in our foreground, half covering the screen. You can hear their conversation as they move in and out of shot. And then slowly from in your corner of your other vision eye, his eyes turn to look at them. That's some good shit.
How come they're like that, Aunt Patty? They love to play jokes on me.
I don't know, Zane. You like chocolate sundaes?
Yeah.
With sprinkles?
Oh, yeah.
And gooey red stuff?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
The next day, Trina and Dan are being forced to clean. Zane arrives and apologizes for getting them into trouble and talks about trying to not be so afraid. I was really intrigued at this point because I was like, oh, this is a different take, that he's sort of coming to them and saying, look, I'm sorry I got you in trouble. I am really trying to not be so afraid. Like, it scared me, but I know I am what I am and I want to change that. I was like, huh, they never do that.
Been reading his self-help book, man. You know, making a difference.
Absolutely. The other two continue to blame each other before Zane offers to show them how to develop film. In the attic, which is apparently now a dark room too, he explains the process. Now, I'm no photographer, but I'm also 99% sure you can't just turn the lights off in an attic in a room and go, it's the dark room now for developing pictures.
I don't think it works that way.
Same.
Also, I think it's worth noting that this house and like the grounds of it are huge, like massive house, man. Like,
You're
what do these
absolutely
parents
right.
do? What do these parents do?
Yeah, good question, because the inside, but shortly, it was when we go outside in a little while that I went, whoa, they got like, presumably they've got a tennis court and swimming pool as well by the size of it.
Clearly.
As they develop the negatives, Trina notices that some of the pictures aren't of them. And Zane gets his magnifying glass out and sees that a lot of the other photos were taken of puppets. He is mad and walks off as the other two protest their innocence. This is a surprisingly good scene. And here's why, in my opinion. They go through the process. Zane talks us, the watcher, through the process of developing film, which might sound really boring, except what it actually does is build up to a scare you know is coming. You know something is going to be on that film that is not nice. You know that. So when you build it up like they do, in a good 2 minutes of talking and going through the process to the eventual reveal, and it was a satisfying reveal because the pictures under the magnifying glass with that sort of blown up view has a certain creepier value to it. I thought it was a really well done scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
The parents are talking about what to do with their kids and Zane, but Mr. Odell is more interested in Slappy. So this is that kind of thing where he maybe isn't taking it as seriously. Like his wife's saying, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. And he's just messing around with Slappy rather than really paying attention to her.
Mm-hmm.
He then says he knows how to give Zane a confidence boost as Trina and Dan come in listing all the chores they've completed. The kids are continuing to protest their innocence. Zane is called in and Mr. Odell suggests that he teach Zane about the puppets to help ease his mind. Zane isn't too happy about it but agrees. This isn't the worst idea. He goes about it in the wrong way. What I thought he meant when he teach him, I thought he was going to basically strip Slappy down, show him the inner workings, show that this is what this doesn't. But instead, all he really does is basically do his ventriloquist bit for him.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, show him that it is just like a prop, basically.
Yeah, that would have been, that's what you do, right? No monsters under the bed.
This is opportunity to show his ventriloquist skills off, clearly.
It felt like he was almost going to be at the center. What do you think? Do you reckon I'm ready for the big show? Like that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
The lesson is interrupted by Mrs. Odell, who has made dinner. It's here that Slappy then kicks Zane in the leg. He blames the dummy, but obviously everyone is all like, why are you so crazy, Zane? He's in Zane. Get it?
Yeah, totally.
That joke is made.
That's right, and you also have to learn new ways to make sounds.
Which just goes to show you.
There's nothing scary about a dummy.
Okay, dinner's ready. What would everyone like to drink?
Well, what do we have?
Ow! He kicked me.
Who kicked it?
The dummy kicked me.
Well, Zane, that's just not possible.
What did you do?
Zane declares that he hates this place and goes to walk off, but is calmed by Mrs. Odell, who asks him to come to dinner. And we open up to a massacre, a fucking massacre, as the dining table has been torn apart. Someone has wrecked all the food and replaced the roast with a clown puppet. Both Mr. and Mrs. Odell stare daggers at their kids as Zane runs off screaming. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I actually love the length they went to really wreck this dinner. Like, for example, carrots have been made into candlesticks, food's everywhere, the puppet for the turkey and stuff like that. It's ruined by Hayden Christensen's awful scream as he runs away, but it's still a fun scene.
Yeah, it's quite unexpected, actually. But yeah, some of his more hysterical moments in the episode are, I would say, cringeworthy is the best way to describe it.
At least we still have the roast.
Oh no! My roast!
Yes. Unfortunately, Hayden Christensen and cringe go together far too easily.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Later, Mr. Odell is boxing up his dummies to stop the kids using him. He tells them that they're not going to be allowed to go to camp unless someone confesses, but neither of them do. So he says summer camp is off. And I almost punched the air. Consequences. We actually get consequences here. And that's a serious one for them as well. I was like, fucking A.
Yep, it's a rarity, isn't it, for
It
any
is.
of these misbehaving children in these episodes to get any semblance of a consequence.
Trina later is woken up by the sound of moving around in the attic. She gets out of bed and goes upstairs and finds Dan when he sneezes. She accuses him of being responsible, but he says he's been up there waiting and hiding to try and find out who has been doing it. Okay, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But we will now reveal all in an interesting reveal as we hear laughing and see the shadow of a person holding a knife coming up the stairs. It's Zane. He's talking to himself about being a great weekend and the others thought he was afraid of the dummies. He cuts open the box, takes out the dummies, and plans to put them around the house again. Basically, this is his revenge. It's a cool reveal, partially undone by what is, again, bad acting. His talking is just terrible.
Yeah, it's just not believable. You know, that's the problem. But it's a good twist.
Yeah, it is a good twist. So I'll give it credit for that.
And they thought I was afraid of you? Let's see, I think we'll put you in the shower, and, yeah. We'll hang you outside my bedroom window. After this trip, Trina and Daniel will never mess with me again.
Trina and Dan hear all of this from behind the couch, and we see Slappy's shadow watching from afar. Zane is then confronted by Trina and Dan. He's been caught. So I was quite intrigued to see where this was going to go. I was going to be like, okay, he's been busted. What are you going to do now?
Gonna beat the shit out of him, I imagine.
Yeah. They drag him down the stairs as Slappy fully reveals himself for us as he runs across the attic floor. This is where it's an actor, not the puppet, and declares that he will show Zane how the pros prank. And I was like, no, move away from pranking for fuck's sake.
No, come on, guys.
So, you want to be a prankster, do you, Zane? Well, let me show you how the pros do it. Except, I do hate to work alone.
Slappy's voice, by the way, comes from Cathal J. Dodd.
A very memorable voice, for sure.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. We then get a new thing from Slappy as he breathes green mist into Rocky, and Rocky comes to life too. Slappy then laughs maniacally. Decent laugh on this dummy. The next day, Zane has been punished by having to mow the lawn as Trina and Dan watch on, teasing with a drink. He apologizes to them and Trina offers him a drink after having walked a couple of miles across the acres of land they have to get to him.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a serious punishment. Mowing those grounds. Be there
and as well,
for a week,
they're making him do with a handheld one.
His parents, man, they're harsh bastards.
Dan then talks about being impressed by Zane, and the three talk as the parents watch on. I didn't like this. I like the fact that basically everybody just lets everything go. They're like, you know what? You're not the same Zane we remember. He got caught. He got busted. He's put his hands up. So they're always able to move on. And it's like, hey, this is where kids become grown-ups.
Some maturity right there. I like it.
The parents are pleased, as well it means they get to go out tonight. And I'm like, oh yeah, they get to go out and date night. And you know what date night means? But in the background, we see Rocky and Slappy dragging other puppets through the hallway. I do like that. I love it. I love shit that occurs in the background out of people's visions, particularly with something where aware already exists. It doesn't need to be subtle anymore, but it can be in the background.
It looks as if our crisis has been successfully diffused.
And we didn't have to call the National Guard.
So you think it's safe for us to go out tonight?
Mm-hmm. If anyone ever needed a night out, it's you and me.
That night, the kids are home alone, and Slappy watches from a window. The kids are playing backgammon, okay, as you do. But they are planning to watch a horror movie. Trina goes to get a drink and sees two puppets hanging from the ceiling fan. Now, you know what's going to happen here. Trina calls Zane and accuses him, but he denies it. Of course, they don't believe him, but in what is probably the episode's best reveal / scare, the episode gets super sinister as he looks past them and says, well, how do you explain that? And we cut to a dummy stuffed inside a water cooler. So, you know, a water fountain with a bottle on top, and there's a dummy stuffed in it. And they do the music, and it's quite a whoa, because that's completely unexplainable.
It's cool.
In fact, it is completely unexplainable. How did that happen? How did Slappy do that?
Yeah, and why? I mean, I guess they've done so many types of pranks. He's out of ideas. So there's that. Also,
who has a water cooler?
Oh my God, I was about to say. Yeah, I mean, that just shows how rich these parents are, and it's a water cooler sitting around their house. That's super random.
They then hear a noise behind them and see that Slappy is now sitting on the table. And the kids are getting scared as Zane approaches and then ask the others if they're pulling something. It's here they all start to realize something is wrong. But Zane refuses to believe it, thinking they want revenge on him, so tries to get Slappy to kick him. And when he turns around, Slappy does and reveals himself to the kids. So I thought the build up to Slappy revealing was all really well done.
Yeah, they could have, blew it earlier, but they really wait until a really impactful moment. And I really enjoyed the scene where he kicks him and then steps down off the table. It's really effective. And really,
it is
creepy for sure.
It is, because as well they delay it. When he bends over you, he doesn't kick him then. He waits till Zane gets up and kind of dismisses it and then reacts. Good touch.
Yeah.
You didn't say please. What's the matter, Zane? I thought we were gonna be buddies. Abracadabra! Oh, I love that trick. Gotcha.
The kids scream and run off with him chasing. Here, I think the jump between puppet and actor is at its most obvious, where it's the puppet on the table and it's the actor when he jumps down.
Yeah.
Plus, the actor runs like this, which I just thought was funny.
That's true.
Slappy knocks them over by pulling the rug out from under their feet. Ba-boom! They all try to hide behind chairs, and Dan uses the leg rest to launch Slappy in the air. So we get a bit of an action scene here. As he knocks them over, he then uses the leg rest, like a lazy boy with the legs flip up, to knock Slappy in the air. And then they all dive on him to hold him down. And I'm like, whoa, normally we just run and scream and get cornered. We don't fight back.
Don't normally see them get physical, but it's good to see.
Absolutely. Well, they have the numbers. That's the thing. The 3 against 1. He is just a fucking puppet.
I'm kind of concerned for Slappy here.
Oh, man.
Pull the little fucker apart, man.
Zane goes to get the case, comes back with it, and they manage to stuff Slappy inside. They close it and manage to lock it, and then carry it out to a well. And I'm getting well baffled about this place. It has a well as well? What the fuck is going on?
I got to fill the water cooler with something, That's it. Get the water from the well.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's such an old house that it doesn't have drinkable water. So they have a well, we fill the water cooler with that.
Pure from the source.
But they drop Slappy and his box in it, and it's like, yeah, that was too easy. Look at your runtime, folks. We're not done yet.
Ow, Zane! Put it up. Okay, wait. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Quiet.
Particularly to see Rocky watching from inside. And I was a bit like, where was Rocky during all the Slappy being attacked and held down and stuff? Shouldn't that be the time when he helps?
Yeah, of course. And it just raises the question of why doesn't Slappy just reanimate many of them? Why does he only choose to do Rocky? Could have been
Good point.
easy. He had an entire army. But Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, yeah. The kids all agree not to tell the parents as they wouldn't believe them. Damn right. What's the point?
They're learning.
Yeah. They all decide to go to bed, but are a bit freaked out. So they go their separate ways as we see a storm is picking up. Trina is reading Zane's Conquering Your Fears book. She begins to drift off as she goes to turn a light off, comes face to face with Slappy. So we didn't even really hang around. Didn't really do a big rebuild and coming back into the episode. Almost immediately he's back in.
It's just another one of those things, though, where like I just find it too unbelievable that after witnessing something like that, I know they're saying, oh, the parents wouldn't believe it, but like you witness something like that, you're just going to go to sleep, really?
You probably stay together for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
We do get probably the best pun in a while. Now, bear in mind, Slappy is quite a pun machine, and they can be hit and miss. But here he coughs up a frog and says that he had a frog in his throat. And I was a bit like, that's so dumb, but I love that.
Yeah, and he's a real frog. So
she screams, makes a run for it as Dan arrives with a baseball bat. I'm like, oh my God, these kids are bloody brilliant. He got a baseball bat. That's brilliant.
Exactly, just smash him with it.
And Slappy rightfully has legged it. He's gone, but has left wet footprints up the wall into a vent. And I was a bit like, so he can walk on walls now?
Yeah, it always makes me wonder because I don't really ever show it other than the fact that Slappy like lifts the rug, makes them all go flying. So clearly he has some strength, and you don't really get to see enough of what Slappy can do. It's kind of alluded to, but like you said, with the whole walking up walls. But I would like to maybe see that kind of thing because he's clearly an imposing figure to a degree. But then he gets taken down by the three kids, and they like pile on him, and they actually do manhandle him and overpower him. And it's like it kind of makes him look a bit weak. Kind of buries Slappy a little bit,
Yeah,
But
I feel like this is a good point to ask you this question. Then, which portrayal do you prefer? Do you prefer the portrayal of this TV show Slappy or the Goosebumps movie Slappy? The obvious difference for me is in the movie he's more of the puppet master, the overarching guy who sits in the chair stroking the cat.
Yeah, he's like the kingpin type character from whereas he has some strength himself, but he kind of uses other like villainous characters to like do his bidding by themselves, or like the Joker from Batman.
Yeah,
doesn't really have much power himself. But I'm not sure. I've only seen the movie once, so I'd have to see it again to honestly remember how he is in that. But yeah.
Well, I think considering we are getting Goosebumps, it would only be right at some point we will do separate episodes for both Goosebump films as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they realize Slappy is going for Zane, and we do then cut to see Slappy breathing his green mist into Zane's face. Trina and Dan get into Zane's room to find Slappy on the bed surrounded by puppets and no sign of Zane. So I'm going to talk a lot about this specific set of scenes here, starting with this one here. I think this might be some of the scariest things Goosebumps has done. And I actually think some kids would have been very frightened of this. The first is when they first burst in. They burst in and we get a flash of lightning, which lights up the room, revealing all these fucking puppets sitting on the bed facing the door. Even I went, nah, nope. I'd be stopping dead like, nope, not going in there. Because you don't know at this point what's alive and what's not.
Yeah, I don't think I said about how I don't really get the being scared of the puppets, but that shot does a really great job of, I can imagine that being pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've never really bought into dolls, puppets and stuff like that. And you come from a guy that likes the Puppet Master franchise, the Child's Play franchise, has a love-hate relationship with Annabelle and stuff like that. But most of the time, I just don't buy it. I don't get freaked out by it. But images, flashing images, short images like this are enough to make me go, yeah, okay, that's fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Slappy introduces Rocky and then makes the other scary reveal. He turns Zane around and reveals that Zane is now a puppet. It's not a great likeness for the kid, but when Slappy makes jokes and laughs and then forces Zane to speak like a ventriloquist dummy, that's horrible.
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
So, Zane, did you hear the one about the three kids that tried to outsmart that dummy?
don't know, Slappy. Tell me all about it.
They couldn't do it.
Daniel!
Trina demands that he turn Zane back, but refuses to take orders from her. He then threatens to turn them both into dummies if they tell their parents. So yeah, Slappy's plan seems to be we're all just going to live together. Okay.
It's not a family, man. We'll be part of family. It's good love.
This is the old playground thing. He picks on them because he likes them.
It's kind of sweet in a weird, twisted way.
Trina and Dan run downstairs and Trina tells him that they have to find a way to beat him, and she remembers the card. Dan wonders if they can read it backwards to reverse the spell. Not the worst idea, I suppose.
Worth a shot.
And they go outside to pull the case out of the well, and Rocky is watching them. The kids pull the case back up, open it to find the card is missing, obviously. And they realize that Slappy must have it, so run back in. This entire sequence of running out to get the case, pulling it up, not finding the card, and then go back in, is what I call filler. This was 2 or 3 minutes they needed to fill to get to the end. And they were like, I'll just do this because the case being down there makes no sense. Didn't Rocky pull the case up with Slappy? So what, he didn't throw the case back down?
Yeah, no, that's true.
The kids go up to the attic to find all the puppets are asleep, including Slappy. Trina quietly starts to approach him, seeing that the card is in his top pocket, but the floor creaks under her. So she realizes Dan is lighter, so less likely to stand on creaky floor, so sends him. Okay, fine. As he reaches for the card, Slappy slaps his hand away, so living up to his name. I actually thought they did that on purpose, because he actually slaps, like they show his hand.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overreaching on that one. I don't know. They go to run, but Rocky is blocking the way down. And we see that the card fell out, was on the chair now. Slappy starts to transform Dan, but Trina quickly knocks him away and manages the card. And again, it is a full-on hoof him. Not like pushes him, hoofs him over the fucking other side of the room. More of that.
Love it.
She then reads the spell backwards as Slappy begs her not to. She finishes and both Slappy and Rocky fall to the floor. Now, you obviously know this isn't going to work. And Slappy's bad acting on purpose tells you it isn't. It's a proper like, before like death for him. And you know it's like, oh, he's clearly winding her up.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty lame ending as well if it was the case.
True, but it's Goosebumps. Lame endings exist. It wouldn't, it wouldn't have surprised me. But again, runtime. Trina approaches Slappy and surprise, he's fine, as is Rocky. The kids are cornered as Slappy then shouts at Rocky for laughing. He then calls Rocky a slave and tells him to teach the kids a lesson. Now, this sudden outburst of Slappy was a bit too sudden for my liking. I would have preferred throughout the episode had they had other moments where he kind of insulted Rocky or kind of put him down. Here, it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. It's in keeping, I think, with the character of Slappy being like the big boss. And there was a scene earlier on where he told Trina, I don't take orders from you. And that ties into the whole, I think I'm the dog's bollocks and you all my underlings. But he gives Rocky some serious shit here when he hasn't done that anywhere else.
Yeah, they should have placed some other scenes where he had undermined him in certain ways, or maybe shown scenes where Rocky had shown signs that he did want to be like closer to the family, and maybe something.
Agreed. Trina appeals to Rocky and calls him part of the family. Slappy insults him as Rocky goes through the whole Darth Vader thing. So this is the end of Return of the Jedi as Luke begs for help and the Emperor is frying him. We cut to, remember, and also I'm referencing the original trilogy, not what George Lucas added to ruin that scene, where Darth Vader clearly is conflicted between helping his son and his boss. That is what we basically do with Rocky, but Noah is good.
Yeah.
He then turns around and attacks Slappy, making a Godfather reference. And I was like, what the fuck? Because it is a direct Godfather reference.
What is it? I forgot.
It's something about the family. I can't remember what the exact line is. I didn't write it down. It's about the family.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
No, go on a second.
Slappy tries to bring another dummy to life. So what you suggested earlier on, he's now like, oh, I'll do it now. Bit late. But Rocky stops him and then throws him out the window. And I'm like, yeah, this is getting violent. And you can do it because it's dummy on dummy. Nothing wrong with that.
No blood involved, so you can do what you want, man.
Slappy manages to hold on to the gutter, though, declaring himself invincible. And then gets hit by lightning and explodes. And I mean properly explodes. And I fucking almost cheered of how brilliant this scene is. Him just screaming like a maniacal maniac, I'm invincible, and then get hit by lightning and blowing up. And we're talking a practical boom. I was like, oh my God, this episode is like, wow.
Yeah, they put an explosion in Goosebumps, man. And also that's quite like a definitive way to get rid of like Slappy. I don't believe there's any more Now the Living Dummy episodes are beyond this. Is there?
Yeah, I do know for sure there's another one.
Well, I don't remember one after this at all, but well, so I guess it's not definitive.
Well, we do have a final shot, but here's the thing. It's one of those where it's definitive enough because you could with a dummy, and like with Puppet Master, like with Chucky, there's always a way. There's always a way. But if they never wanted to, or never planned to, they've done enough here to never have to. And that's what I always like about this sort of story, because you leave yourself easily open because it's a supernatural fucking dummy. Of course you can find ways around it. But we also want to make sure we give you a satisfying conclusion to the tale. There's no to be continued, basically.
Well, there is episode slightly, obviously, with what's to come. But with Slappy, I guess you can always say that it's more the essence of whatever is within him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't you get it? I'm invincible!
Rocky then collapses and Zane is back. He thinks it was a dream and then somehow randomly then takes the picture. I didn't get that. He's like, oh, it's a dream. Say cheese.
Yeah, didn't get that either.
And we then focus on, again, another really interesting final sort of shot as we kind of go down to where Slappy's remains are and focus on the side of his face burning. And I'm like, it's little risks like that, little touches like that I'm like, you know, when this was shown to the people who have to kind of get it past the censors, you know, they were like, is that a little bit too much? But like they let it go. This episode is one that I reckon comes with the PG rating, the parental guidance.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I think you're probably right.
The next day, because we're not quite done yet, Trina has tidied up the attic and Rocky and thanks him for his help. And we kind of focus on Rocky. And I did kind of like it. Weirdly, in the last sort of minute or two of this thing, they gave Rocky a fair amount of personality and life. That was, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Downstairs, Zane is leaving and everyone seems to like each other now. They're planning to spend Christmas together. But of course, this is Goosebumps and we need a stinger scene. And I don't know how I feel about this one. As he goes to get into the car, his head twists around like a dummy. And he sinisterly says that he will see them real soon. And I was like, what?
Bye, Zane. See ya. I'll be seeing you real soon, cousins.
Yeah, I remember always finding that head turns like super hilarious, and that has not changed. It's like, what the hell do the kids do after they see that? What's the next course of action?
Well, where my puzzle comes from, right? Well, let's just say straight away, the effect's bad. The effect is bad.
Yeah.
But it's the way, and what confuses me is the way Zane says, I'll see you soon. I'm like, is he evil now?
Like, is it just his delivery and actually, no, this is just some sort of new power he has. He doesn't mean it in a sinister way. He means, no, I'll see you soon, like at Christmas, like we discussed.
Yeah.
But now I can like bend my body like a dummy. Who knows?
It's dare I say, I actually feel like they fucked up the ending here. That this is actually an episode that didn't need a stinger scene, and that they shot that we had of Slappy's burning face would have been a perfect way to end the episode. That would have been more than fucking satisfying.
Or they could have had the card like blowing away in the wind or something, like landing somewhere else. Maybe it lands and a little kid picks it up or something random like that, you know?
Yeah. But this is just sort of feels like they went, okay, what we doing? What we adding? What we going to do for the stinger? Okay, this. And like I said, the fact that I can't work out if, what you said, is it bad acting from Hayden Christensen, or is it meant to come across sinister? The way he says, I'll see you soon. But I can forgive it, because overall, this is a two-parter that never felt like it dragged, barring a few filler moments here and there. I was entertained from beginning to end. They really, really up the ante. It does what a sequel should do. And bear in mind, it is just a sequel, not the third in a series, where you got to go bigger, bolder, and badder. And I think it does it a lot. They looked at what was limiting them in the last one, e.g. Slappy not being able to move around, came up with a clever solution around it that worked most of the time. Up the action scenes, up the violence, included really, really, to be honest, this Slappy is probably one more in line with the movie version, because this Slappy has more of the megalomaniac elements. I will forever remember him screaming, I'm invincible, before getting hit by lightning. That is some fucking super villain exit, you know? Yeah. And that's what's going to stand out. The kids are all memorable enough characters, even if there's nothing stand out about them. Yes, the acting can be very hit and miss from one in particular, but ultimately, I didn't get too distracted by the fact it was Hayden Christensen. I actually kind of found that quite enjoyable, because I was like, all right, well, I know what you're like, I'm going to enjoy that. The parents are a little odd, a little unusual, in particular the father, but they also serve an important role in the story, and that was important too. The inclusion of new dummies was clever. There's also lots of references as well. The puppet, I forgot to mention this, but the puppet that is the one that killed Slappy at the end of Night of the Living Dummy 2 can be briefly seen in a shot when Slappy's sitting with all the dummies in the bedroom. He has that dummy with him as well. I forgot the one name of him, but he's in the shot as well in the top right-hand corner. Now, it's just a reference, but it also, again, suggests that Slappy always wins in the end. And I really like that, because truth be told, you got to think the family, after dealing with Slappy, probably wanted to get rid of all the other puppets, so threw out the other puppet as well. And you can imagine Slappy saying to him, they threw you out too. Join me. That worked brilliant. Yeah, it has some of Goosebumps' scariest scenes that we talked through. It's some of the stuff that I think would generally make children a little bit frightened to go to sleep at night. It uses the storm wonderfully to enhance that. It's got good music. The location, the house predominantly in it is different looking. As we joked throughout, it's massive, which gives them a lot of free reign. I think this is up there as one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this one a lot, and I don't know if that's the reason why it's so memorable, but I think it is also as memorable due to so many strong aspects, like you mentioned, and put so well. It's got loads and loads of tension-filled scenes, and just, yeah, lots and lots of memorable elements to it. And I think it is really, really strong on the whole.
Fair dues. There we go. That's it. That's Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 and the end of Season 2. You know we don't stop here. You know we continue into Season 3. Look out for that coming soon as well. But for now, you got any thoughts on Night of the Living Dummy 3? You know what to do. Drop them in the comments, please. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror, and heavy metal. What else is life for?